Hey, good morning everyone from South Lake, Texas. Pretty cool. I know it's been a little bit, so we haven't jumped in this in a while, but last time we finished up with Genesis, so we kind of got to see how we got here. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph. Joseph ends up being close with, the king of Egypt. 70 family members end up starting like their entire tribe over there. That's kind of where we ended up, but we're gonna jump into Exodus and see that, after hundreds of years that they had died off, but their relatives were there and no one loves them anymore because there's a new king of Egypt. So one of the cool parts today is I was trying to kind of summarize this and look into it, and my pages kept flipping outside. The wind would pick up or whatever, and it just kept going back to this one verse. It says, "Do not be afraid, stand firm, and you will see the deliverance of the Lord will bring you today." So that's not until 14 chapters into this, but it just kept showing that to me today. So I think that no matter what, whether you see it today or you don't, God's going in front of us, fighting our battles and delivering us from bad stuff that we would have never seen anyway. So stand fast, stay in prayer, stay close to God, and we will continue to see good things happen here. So let's jump in and do the first two chapters of Exodus. So Exodus 1 says, "These are the names of the sons of Israel who went to Egypt with Jacob, each with his family." Remember, that was kind of where we ended in Genesis. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. The descendants of Jacob numbered 70 in all. Joseph was already in Egypt. So remember, 70 came over. They were all Jacob's kids, and those essentially ended up being the tribes where they kind of broke off. Each kid had a tribe, but Joseph was the apple of the eye on this one, and he was also for the king of Egypt because he had read his dreams and saved him from a drought. So anyway, that's how all the Hebrews came to Egypt from the land of Canaan, and now they're stuck there. And they did well there, but the Egyptians started to fall out of love with them. So now Joseph and all of his brothers and all that generation died, but the Israelites were exceedingly fruitful. They multiplied greatly, increased in numbers, and became so numerous that the land was filled with them. Then a new king, to whom Joseph meant nothing, came to power in Egypt. "Look," he said to the people, "the Israelites have become far too numerous for us. Come, we must deal shrewdly with them, or they will become even more numerous, and if war breaks out, we'll join our enemies, fight against us, and leave the country." So they're kind of coexisting right now, and the drought's over, things have moved on, and now they're just this new people that are living amongst the Egyptians. And so this new king, he's being paranoid and is worried that if enemies ever come, that they'll jump ship, jump sides, and take over Egypt. So he's going to enslave them. So they put slave masters over them to oppress them with forced labor, and they built Pithom and Ramesses as store cities for Pharaoh. But the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. So the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites and worked them ruthlessly. They made their lives bitter with harsh labor in brick and mortar and with all kinds of work in the fields. In all their harsh labor, the Egyptians worked them ruthlessly. The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose names were, so he's working on, they're making like pyramids, right? They just work the absolute day and night. They didn't have trucks or tractors, so they just used the Jews essentially as their forced labor. And the more forced labor they could put on them, the more projects they could do, and the less likely they were to rebel or join forces with another country. And these were peaceful people already. They just wanted to live their lives. So the king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose name were Shiphrah and Puah, "When you are helping the Hebrew women during childbirth on the delivery stool, if you see that the baby is a boy, kill him. But if it is a girl, let her live." The midwives, however, feared God and did not do what the king of Egypt had told them to do. They let the boys live. Then the king of Egypt summoned the midwives and asked them, "Why have you done this? Why have you let the boys live?" The midwives answered Pharaoh, "Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. They are vigorous and give birth before the midwives arrive." So God was kind to the midwives, and the people increased and became even more numerous. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. Then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people: "Every Hebrew boy that is born you must throw into the Nile, but let every girl live." So yeah, the new Pharaoh is like really had enough of them. He's worried about them, paranoid about them, about the Hebrews, and he is wanting to make sure down the line there's not any fighting age males, only women for his kids and generation to take. So he's trying to get rid of those. Now, a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at him to see, hang on, Dallas Airport, right above us. Okay. Then she, let's see. So she made a little papyrus basket. She got some Flex Seal, and then when she could hide him no longer, she got the papyrus basket for him, coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbanks. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her female slave to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" "Yes, go," she answered. So the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So the woman took the baby and nursed him. When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, "I drew him out of the water." So we've all kind of heard the baby in the basket story, and that's why Pharaoh wanted all the Egyptian babies dead. Moses' mom held out as long as he could, and then kind of like hid in the grass and scooted him down to where essentially Pharaoh's daughter was. So she's royalty, and now Moses is going to get taken care of, and then Moses' mother ends up getting paid to nurse and take care of her own son, essentially. So she still gets to raise him, even though now this child has protection of being an adopted son, from Pharaoh's daughter. So it's all kind of working out in that sense. Let's see, Moses is about to grow up. One day after Moses had grown up, he went out to where his people were and watched them at their hard labor. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people. Looking this way and that and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. So one of his is getting beat, he kills the Egyptian, buries him out there in the desert, and now he doesn't know what to do. So the next day he went out and saw 2 Hebrews fighting. He asked the one in the wrong, "Why are you hitting your fellow Hebrew man? Like, after all this murder and everything, you guys are going to fight amongst each other?" And the man said, "Who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed that Egyptian?" Then Moses was afraid, and he thought, "What I did must have become known." So someone let the cat out of the bag, and now he is known for being murder, manslaughter at best. When Pharaoh heard of this, he tried to kill Moses, but Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in Midian, where he sat down by a well. Now a priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came to draw water and fill the troughs to water their father's flock. Some shepherds came along and drove them away, but Moses got up and came to their rescue and watered their flock. When the girls returned to Reuel, their father, he asked them, "Why have you returned so early?" They answered, An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds. He even drew water for us and watered the flock. And where is he? Reuel asked his daughters. Why did you leave him? Invite him to have something to eat. Moses agreed to stay with the man who gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses in marriage. Zipporah gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, saying, I have become a foreigner in a foreign land. During that long period, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites groaned in their slavery and cried out, and their cry for help became the Israelites groaned in their slavery and cried out, and their cry for help because of their slavery went up to God. And God heard their groaning, and he remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. So God looked on the Israelites and was concerned about them. We're going to kind of hang it up there. We can recap it. I mean, essentially, we know how we got there. Moses is kind of being picked from the beginning. Let's see. Okay, so the two, Shiphrah and Puah, possibly the leaders of the midwives, refused to commit infanticide. So that was kind of cool. Like, they wanted them to kill the midwives, to be killing the babies, and they still did the right thing. They still hid it from them, from the Egyptians, because they knew, and this is before the 10 Commandments, right? And they still knew that killing this baby was bad, and they still feared the Lord. And so the small defiance of this leads up to something big. Let's see. I think that's it. We're going to hang it up. We'll pick up chapter 3 next week, you guys. Love you. Have a great week. We'll see ya.